Anyone, even those with a passing interest in history and civilization, recognizes that the Giza Plateau of Egypt stands out as the most prominent site among countless ancient mysteries. However, despite centuries of excavation efforts, no one truly knows who built, discovered the Giza pyramids or the Sphinx, and when they were constructed. Any claims regarding this matter are purely theoretical, at least from the perspective of some independent researchers and alternative theorists. Ultimately, who truly are the masterminds behind the great structures on the Giza Plateau? What were they built for? More importantly, are these advanced technological techniques inherited from any modern civilization? Welcome to our video today, The Advanced Civilization Before the Pharaohs. Under all the various theories surrounding the enigmatic structures on the Giza Plateau, the conventional nature of the pyramid builders cannot be fully accounted for. The internal design of the Great Pyramid consists of 3 chambers, one of which is below ground level, and the intricate passageways connecting them stand out more than anything else at Giza. The passageways lead to what is known as the King's Chamber, standing over 10 meters tall, while all other passageways are not constructed tall enough to accommodate ordinary men or women. The official hypothesis is that the pyramids are tombs, and that Pharaoh Khufu continually changed his mind about the location of his burial chamber. This may be why there are up to 3 chambers in the Great Pyramid. However, compared to his square burial methods in Mastaba III at Saqqara and the tombs in the Valley of the Kings, the pyramids at Giza, and particularly the Great Pyramid, do not seem like a pharaoh's tomb. The ancient Egyptian worldview. The ancient Egyptians believed in the afterlife, and tombs were an important part of that belief. Evidence is the tomb of Tutankhamun, a room adorned with art and filled with his possessions. Why did they practice this ritual? Not out of superstition, though some still speculate, but because of a spiritual connection based on their belief. It was practical and aimed to prevent the energy of that person from being reabsorbed naturally. For the ancient Egyptians, the Kai was a living person, while the Ba was the energy emanating from that person, akin to their personality. The miraculous combination of these spiritual entities would represent immortality, an important aspect of Egyptian belief. When someone passed away, their goal as well as their family's hope, the deceased's Ka would seek to maintain its identity in the spiritual world and could seek its Bay to achieve immortality, leading to resurrection and elevation beyond the limits of the earthly realm, akin to the pharaoh's tombs. Carved in the Valley of the Kings, the royal tombs built in the early dynasties, some around 2000 BCE, were also designed with the idea of a home, as that home was related to someone's Ka. The distinctive features of ancient Egyptian inland life are superbly integrated into their tomb designs. However, this is not found in the Giza pyramids. Here, there is no art or hieroglyphic inscriptions in any form, lacking the characteristic elements of Egyptian tombs. So why are the Giza pyramids often considered tombs of 4th dynasty pharaohs? The reason is the connection of the Giza complex with the development unlike Saqqara, 10 miles to the south, where the Egyptians actually built tombs like the Step Pyramid. At Saqqara in 1881, the French Egyptologist Gaston Maspero discovered an underground chamber of the Pyramid of Pepi the Fars inscribed with hieroglyphs. In subsequent explorations, it was found that a total of 5 pyramids at Saqqara also contained inscriptions. From the 6th, 7th, and 8th dynasties of the ancient kingdom, with the pyramids at Saqqara confirmed as tombs, the logical inference was drawn that all pyramids must be tombs. Furthermore, Because there are two cemeteries to the east and west of the Giza pyramids at the northern extreme, the assumption that all pyramids are tombs is a conclusion that historians could support. However, the condition of the Saqqara pyramids, mostly believed to have been built after the Giza pyramids, raises serious issues with this logical connection. At Saqqara, only Djedefre's stepped pyramid retains its shape, while all other pyramids of Saqqara mostly date back to the 5th and 6th dynasties, now mostly reduced to rubble. According to Egyptian scholars, Djedefre's stepped pyramid at Saqqara was built in the 3rd dynasty and served as the precursor to the 4th dynasty pyramids on the Giza Plateau. After the development of the pyramids at Giza, for reasons unclear, the focus of pyramid construction shifted back to Saqqara. Is the Great Pyramid a machine? The most easily observable and clear difference between the Giza pyramids and Saqqara is the construction techniques and materials. Although both are believed to have been built in the same era, the crucial point is that the engineers and builders of the ancient kingdom did not pass down their methods from the 4th to the 5th dynasty. Personally, it seems they didn't, which is a remarkably curious event given the stability of Egyptian civilization. It's also possible that the Egyptians of the 4th dynasty weren't the ones who built the Giza pyramids. No other pyramids in Egypt are like those here, especially the Great Pyramid. Furthermore, there is no direct evidence in the mainstream historians' claims that the Great Pyramid or other Giza pyramids are tombs. Nor are there any records left by their builders regarding their purpose when they were constructed. So, if the pyramids are not tombs, then what are they? A mysterious temple for initiation rituals, or a public structure designed to unify the nation, or something entirely different? There have been many intriguing theories, but the most astonishing theory we know of is that of researcher Christopher Doyle, that it is a giant device rather than a stone tomb. According to him, the Great Pyramid is an energy-producing machine by converting vibrational energy into electrical energy. There are several reasons to accept his analysis. First, he explains the interior design and all other evidence within the Great Pyramid in a coherent manner. Second, he demonstrates the technical skills required to complete the construction accurately. Third, his expertise and career are in manufacturing and production, which qualifies him to express professional opinions on the techniques and tools of the pyramid builders. The fact is that modern construction companies today cannot build the Great Pyramid without inventing specialized tools and techniques to handle stone blocks of varying weights from 10 to 50 tons. Such an effort would be on a scale equivalent to building a hydroelectric dam or a nuclear power plant costing tens of billions of dollars. Although our modern economy differs from the ancient economy, the resources needed now compared to then are the same. Stone must be quarried and moved. Workers must be paid. The reality is that a large amount of resources was allocated to develop the Giza pyramids over a long period. On the other hand, mainstream researchers have proposed that the Giza pyramids were built within 24 years, which in fact proves the architecture and precision of it that such a giant project cannot be completed in such a short period. This is why there is an opinion that those buildings weren't intended for any pharaoh. Several independent researchers have provided clear evidence of a very different story about the early period of the Egyptian dynasty around 3000 BCE. The formation and development of long-term settlements in the lower Nile Valley led to the development of civilization. So why were Giza and its surrounding areas chosen as the focal point for the earliest Egyptian period? It's because a civilization existed prior to that. The three pyramids and the Great Sphinx Age are clear evidence that the early Egyptians also believed they were tombs, and as a result, they rejuvenated the Giza Plateau and turned it into an ancient cemetery, then expanded to Saqqara, where they built pyramid-shaped tombs. Although of lesser quality and skill than the pyramid construction, even the smaller structures at Saqqara consumed a lot of resources. So the land-respected Egyptians buried their nobility in traditional tombs. This scenario requires an ancient civilization with advanced technical skills that seem incompatible with an acceptable historical scale. However, the view that a previous civilization existed not only extends to the time the Giza pyramids were built. Clearly, history has its own secrets. But we have enough evidence to verify the theory that a civilization could be much older than what we previously believed. History, according to ancient Egyptians, has confirmed this. Ancient Egyptians employed a sophisticated calendar system consisting of 365 days in a year, adjusted periodically according to the cycle of the star Sirius, a cycle corresponding to 1,261 years. Essentially, marking the new year by Sirius was the ancient Egyptians' leap year. Of course, determining the length based on the Sirius cycle requires observing the stars for thousands of years, meaning the origin of Egyptian pharaohs or its knowledge must trace back to this distant past. Is this the fact that modern historians want to bury, or not? Late 20th century Egyptologists from West Germany seem to agree in principle that the origin of ancient Egypt dates back to prehistory. He believed that their writing system had surpassed mere pictorial symbols even in the earliest dynasties. Moreover, signs were used to represent sounds. Additionally, ancient Egyptian religion is evidence of significant development from a modern Western perspective. Their religion was considered primitive, and polytheism appeared as mythology. This misunderstanding stems from the term netjer in Egyptian, translated into Greek as God. However, the true meaning of netjer is to describe an aspect of a deity rather than a deity to be worshipped. Essentially, netjer refers to the principles of nature in a practical manner. However, the meaning of a specific art was conveyed through visual symbols. For example, when a human was depicted with an animal head, it represented a principle, but it occurred in a specific human. The immortal lady was represented by a bird-faced human, or Anubis, the overseer of the embalming process, wearing the head of a wild dog. He did so as a representative of the decomposition or fermentation process. In nature, wild dogs keep their prey to decompose before consuming it. From a general perspective, the decomposition of a body is essentially digestion. So, organs related to digestion after being removed from the deceased were placed in a canopic jar with the lid shaped like a wild dog's head. This is the truth behind the embalming process of the ancient Egyptians that history books have never told us about. The advanced civilization preceding the ancient Egyptian pharaohs. The sudden appearance of ancient Egypt at the beginning of the 3rd millennium BCE is one of its greatest mysteries. How did this supposedly primitive North African culture organize itself into such a magnificent civilization? According to recent genetic studies, everyone alive today is descended from a single African woman who walked the earth some 150,000 years ago. Her remains exist within all of us. It was a long time ago when our ancestors were still in a relatively primitive state. Supporting the alternative theories, some of which are highly unusual, especially the Great Pyramids, show they were not primitive. With evidence of the ancient Egyptians' technological capabilities, such as temple monuments and other handcrafted artifacts still existing, as well as their sophisticated symbolic representations of nature, it seems that when establishing a dynastic society, the ancient Egyptians of the 3rd millennium BCE benefited from a legacy of knowledge. Of course, skeptics of this historical approach will want to know where the evidence of this technical and prehistoric civilization is. If such a civilization existed, there would surely be plenty of evidence to support its appearance. If a monopolistic approach to geological formation is generally accepted as a fact, then everyone will agree with those outside the marketplace. However, mass extinction events caused by environmental disasters, such as volcanoes, asteroid or comet impacts, gamma ray bursts, have wiped out these civilizations. According to geologists, there have been 5 major mass extinction events in Earth's history: the Ordovician, Devonian, Permian, Triassic, and Cretaceous. If all of these cataclysms occurred before the appearance of modern humans, then there have been 2 relatively recent global catastrophes. About 71,000 years ago, Mount Toba in Sumatra erupted, releasing a massive amount of dust into the atmosphere. This was the largest volcanic eruption in the past 2 million years, nearly 10,000 times larger than the eruption of Mount St. Helens in 1980. As a result, the volcano formed a 62-mile-long and 37-mile-wide lake, with long-lasting and severe climate consequences. A 6-year-long winter followed, and then a 1,000-year-long ice age, with its sulfuric smoke reducing global temperatures, causing droughts and famines, decimating the human population. According to geneticists' estimates, the population plummeted to about 15,000 to 40,000 individuals. University genetic professors believe this number could drop to 5,000 individuals, even closer to our era. A mysterious mass extinction event at the end of the recent ice age occurred only about 10,000 years ago, and no one really knows whether it was the result of a natural phenomenon or a collision of asteroids. What is known is that the Earth's climate changed significantly, affecting the lives of those living at that time. They had a geological fact known as the Late Ice Age, when many species in North America went extinct. It also affected the climate at lower latitudes in Central and South America, as well as Europe. Similarly, those lands revealed evidence of mass extinctions. However, the mechanism behind this late Ice Age cataclysm remains a mystery to this day. If an ancient advanced civilization existed in the distant past, then what are the chances that this civilization survived intact after a global catastrophe? Estimates of the Toba eruption are not worth mentioning, even the scenario that astronomers and climatologists today construct for a theoretical asteroid impact. According to archaeological evidence, modern humans anatomically appeared in Western Europe 40,000 years ago. Where they came from has been a long-standing mystery, and a reasonable inference is that they migrated from Africa. However, such migration requires a source culture. This is entirely unsubstantiated. However, a potential location for this founding culture is along the shores of the Mediterranean, where there may have been a series of freshwater lakes in the distant past. If the ancient civilization of this region existed, it did not survive the catastrophe. Those lakes turned into seas. If indeed true, then today, remnants of the people living on the periphery of that civilization would appear before us as unusual objects, such as the Giza pyramids. For us, it would be as though they appeared out of nowhere. Ultimately, where the first civilization of humanity came from, we still dare not assert. But that doesn't mean it will always be a human enigma in the future. That information concludes our video for today. Goodbye, and see you again in our next adventures.